In the late Western Han dynasty, the imperial court was politically corrupt, the national economy had declined, and public sentiment was ripe for change. The opportunist Wang Mang, leveraging his status as an imperial relative, won the favor of his aunt, Empress Dowager Wang Xingjun, and rose to become a powerful minister at the center of the Western Han court. He further capitalized on the strong ideological current shaped by the renowned Confucian scholar Dong Zhongshu, who had redirected Confucianism from a system centered on moral values toward one oriented around political interests, to usurp the Han throne, proclaim himself emperor, and establish the Xian dynasty. After ascending the throne, Wang Mang sought to win popular support and consolidate his rule by attempting a sweeping program of social reforms under the banner of restoring ancient institutions. He aimed to weaken the traditional system of private ownership and implement state control over land, resources, and commerce in order to resolve the social crisis. However, Wang Mang's retrogressive reforms, which ran counter to historical trends, not only failed to alleviate any social problems but instead intensified internal contradictions. They left both officials and common people uncertain about how to proceed, and continually provoked widespread dissatisfaction among nobles and the general populace alike. After 17 CE, people across the rose in armed rebellion. Following the emergence of Lu Mu, the first female leader of a peasant uprising in Chinese history, the main forces of these revolts became the Lulan forces in the south and the Red Eyebrows in the north. In 18 CE, Fan Chong, D27, leader of the Red Eyebrows, was a native of Langyi's Ling Men in present-day Shandong. Born into a poor family, he was a plain, courageous farmer, tall and strong, quick to defend the just and stand up for the oppressed. He was widely admired by impoverished peasants, many of whom were willing to join and follow him. Shandong, formerly the ancient state of Lu and the hometown of Confucius, and Zhu Prefecture in particular, was a region with a long-standing cultural tradition. There, a number of strong young peasants followed Fan Chong and rose in rebellion. Veterans from Lu Mu's earlier anti-Wang Mang forces also joined, and the ranks gradually swelled to tens of thousands. At first, Fan Chong and his followers, driven by poverty, became bandits merely to escape hunger. They had no long-term ambition to capture cities or seize territory and were essentially a roving insurgent band. Their organization was simple, and their leaders were called the Three Elders. The Three Elders was an informal grassroots post dating from the Warring States to the Han period, responsible for moral instruction. Selected locally, they assisted formal officials such as county magistrates in handling administrative affairs and in practice served as intermediaries, representatives of local opinion, between the state and the populace. Despite their simplicity, the rebel forces maintained strict discipline and established clear rules. Those who killed would be executed, and those who injured others would compensate their victims. Although these rules existed only as verbal agreements, without written codes, wherever the insurgents went they did not harm the people in the slightest, and they won more popular support than the official troops. Wang Mang dispatched more than 100,000 government troops in an attempt to wipe out the rebels in a single decisive blow. Fan Chong led his forces to meet them in battle. Fearing that his troops might be hard to distinguish from government soldiers in the chaos, he ordered all rebel fighters to dye their eyebrows red, hence the distinctive name Red Eyebrows. At the time, the Red Eyebrows maintained strict discipline, while government troops plundered the populace wherever they went, so local people favored the rebels. When the two sides clashed, the well-equipped government army was routed by the unevenly armed Red Eyebrows, suffering over 10,000 casualties. Seizing the momentum, the Red Eyebrows pursued fiercely and fought another major battle, killing the government commander and annihilating more than 100,000 troops, which greatly boosted their reputation. Afterward, Fan Chong led the Red Eyebrows in campaigns across the Central Plains, winning successive victories against the court's main forces and contributing to the overthrow of Wang Mang's Xian dynasty. The Lulan forces originated in the southern Chinese region of Hubei, around the Lulan Mountains. Later, Lu Xiu, the founding emperor of the Eastern Han dynasty, and his relatives organized the Chunling army, which joined forces with the Lulan rebels to fight against Wang Mang's usurping Xian regime. History is written by the victors. From that point on, groups who gathered in the mountains and forests to resist the ruling class were no longer simply labeled as bandits or thieves. Instead, they came to be praised as outlaws of righteousness who acted in accordance with justice and destiny. In 14 CE, a famine struck the Hubei region, and in order to survive, the common people flocked to wild marshlands to dig up wild water chestnuts for food. Competition for these edible plants often led to disputes among the starving population. Wang Quang and Wang Feng from Xinshi stepped in to resolve conflicts and mediate disputes, earning the strong support of the famine-stricken people. Before long, Wang Quang and Wang Feng became leaders of these desperate and impoverished peasants. As their numbers steadily grew, they gradually formed an armed force that occasionally attacked nearby settlements. Because they were based in the Lulan Mountains, they came to be known as the Lulan Army. Within a few months, the Lulan Army expanded to 7,000 or 8,000 men, becoming a significant threat to the local authorities. In 21 CE, the governor of Jingzhou under Wang Mang led 20,000 elite troops to attack the Lulan Army. Upon receiving the news, Wang Quang, the main commander of the Lulan forces, took the initiative and led his troops out of the mountains to confront them. The Lulan army set up an ambush near Yendu, present-day Jingshan, Hubei, along the route the Xian troops had to pass, while another commander, Ma Wu, led a detachment to cut off the enemy's retreat. When the Xian army arrived, the rebels suddenly launched a fierce attack, killing several thousand enemy soldiers and capturing all their supplies and equipment. The governor of Jingzhou fled with the remnants of his forces but was intercepted again by Ma Wu. He himself was captured, and the remaining troops were annihilated. The Lulan army then pressed their advantage, captured Jingling, and later recaptured Yendu and Anlu. They also opened the prisons, released all prisoners, and distributed grain from government granaries to the starving poor. The Battle of Yendu marked the Lulan army's first major victory since their uprising. Their military prestige soared, and countless suffering people flocked to join them, swelling their ranks to more than 50,000. In the following year, Wang Mang again dispatched a major general of the court with troops to attack the Lulan army. At that time, an epidemic broke out in the Lulan mountain region, causing more than half of the rebel forces to die. To avoid engaging the Xian army under such unfavorable conditions and to prevent the plague from destroying the entire force, the Lulan leaders decided in the 4th month to split their troops and relocate. The main Lulan force, led by commanders Wang Quang, Wang Feng, Ma Wu, Zhu Wei, and Zhang Ang, moved north into Nanyang and became known as the Xinshi Army. Another detachment, led by subordinate generals Wang Chang and Qingdan, D25 CE, moved west into Nan Commandery, with its seat in present-day Jingzhou, Hubei, to draw the attention of Wang Mang's forces and was known as the Zhejiang Army. At the same time, Chen Mu and Liao Zhan from Pinglin, north of present-day Anlu, Hubei, gathered troops in rebellion and called themselves the Pinglin Army. Thus, the peasant rebel forces expanded from a single group into 3 separate armies under the influence of the massive peasant uprisings. Local landlords and powerful clans also took the opportunity to raise armed forces. Lu Yan and Lu Xiao, members of the former Han imperial clan in Nanyang, mobilized their relatives and retainers, about 7,000 to 8,000 people, to launch an uprising at Chunling, in present-day Zhaoyang, Hubei, and called their force the Chunling Army. They later joined forces with the 3 branches of the Lulan movement, repeatedly defeating several of Wang Mang's generals in battle. Their army grew rapidly, eventually expanding to more than 100,000 men.